Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's been a while. So we're recreating this overlap flare dress, and if this is something you're interested in, then let's get started. So I'm going to be starting with the back bodice. So I have my fabric unfold. I already marked out my zip allowance of 1 inch, and after the 1 inch I have a total of 17 inches unfold. That's my starting point right there, and from there I marked 10.5 inches, which is for my bust point, then 17 inches, which is my half length. So on my shoulder line, note that I'm placing my tape after my zip allowance. On my shoulder line I marked 3 inches for my 3.25 inches actually for my neck width, and about 1.25 inch for my neck depth, and I connected that into a cuff to make my neckline. Then from my neck width, I'm going to be coming down at this edge by 1 inch for my shoulder slant, and I'm going to be connecting that 1 inch to my neck width for my shoulder slope. So next I'm going to be marking my sleeve opening. This is a kimono wrap dress, so it's not going to be having any sleeves attached. The sleeves is cut together. So from that slope I'm going to be marking 9 inches for my sleeve opening, and that's what I'm doing right there. Then moving on to my bust line, I'm going to be marking my bust divided by 4, which is 9.5 inches. Then I'm going to be adding 1 inch for ease and half inch for seam allowance. So I'm going to be connecting this point to my sleeve opening with a slight curve, just like you see in the video. Then moving on to my waistline, my waist shoulder to waist is 17 inches, but I'm still going to be reducing it for the back. So my original waist divided by 4 is 8.5 inches, but because I'm going to be adding pleats to this waist, I added about 4 inches for my pleats. Then I'm adding half inch for my seam allowance, which makes it a total of 4.5 inch extra that I added to my waist divided by 4. So I'm going to be connecting this to my bust measurement, just like that. Yes, I know it's slanted, it looks weird, but it's still going to come out fine. It's because of the pleats. So then I'm just trying to make my cuff very smooth right there, and that is that for the back basically. Okay, then moving on to the zipper allowance, because we want our zip to lay very flat on our back and the human back is not straight, it's kind of curved. So I'm going to be coming in from my zipper allowance by half of an inch from the waist, and I'm going to be connecting it back to the zip allowance line, just something like that. So I'm basically just redrawing the bottom part of my zipper allowance, just like that. Remember, my zip allowance is 1 inch, so I'm just trying to make it slanted a bit so that it lays well on my back, just like that. Then also I'm going to be reducing the length of my back bodice. Please, I just advise you reduce it. The minimum should be 1 inch, but I think I later did 1.5 or about 1.75 inches, depending on the difference between your front length and your back length. And if you don't know the difference between your front length and your back length, just reduce by 1.5 inches, and you're just going to slant it down to the side of the bodice like that. Then you're going to be cutting out, but I'm not going to be cutting out the lower part yet because I want to use it to cut my front bodice. So now I'm just going to be cutting out my shoulder slope, making sure I had 0.5 inch for joining allowance, for my shoulder joining allowance right there. Then I'm going to be cutting out my neckline, and the rest of the bodice. So this is what we have for the back, and I'm going to be moving on to the front. Moving on to the front, I have my fabric on fold as well, and I placed one of the back piece on the front, making sure I fold in my zip allowance because we don't need that zip allowance on the front. Then I made sure that I had extra 3.5 inches at the front part, at the fold part, because I'm going to be having an overlap of 2 inches, and then I'm going to be cutting a facing of 1.5 inch together with my front bodice. So my overlap is 2 inches, and I'm marking it right there at the waist, and I'm going to be connecting it to my neck width. Then after the 2 inches that I marked, I'm going to be marking 1.5 inch, and that will be my facing for my front pattern. That's what I'm going to be folding in, so I don't have any rough edge, and I'm extending that 1.5 inch on the neckline too. I'm sorry you can't see that in the video. And then I'm going to be cutting exactly the same as I did on the like the same thing I cut out on the back. I'm going to be cutting it out right now. Then remember, for the front, I'm going to be cutting the facing together with it, but I'm going to be turning my back bodice with a bias, my back neckline with a bias. So I have marked my 1.5 inches, remember, together with the 2 inches overlap, and I'm going to be connecting now to the width of my neckline, and now I'm going to be cutting. Then ensure you notch the point where your facing starts, and also ensure that you notch your neckline and the center front. So that's the facing right here. I'm trying to fold it over and see how it will look. So now I'm bringing back my back bodies, and now I am going to be retrimming my zipper allowance so that my zipper lays flat on my back. And I'm also going to be reducing my center back. Please reduce your center back. I did 1.5 later on, I just did not record that part. Just reduce your center back by 1 inch or 1.5 inch, and then you connect it back to your side back. Now I'm going to be cutting the skirt part, and I folded it into two. Then I took one side and I made it into a triangle. I hope you get what I'm trying to say. So this is how you fold your 180-degree circle. Please let me know in the comment section if you want me to make a proper tutorial about how to cut 90-degree flare, 180-degree, 360-degree, 720-degree. So I'm just trying to illustrate it with that piece. Yeah, something like that. So that was how I folded it. And now I'm going to be determining my waist plus my zipper, 1 inch zipper allowance. So here I'm just trying to figure out my waist measurement divided by 4 plus my 1 inch zip allowance, and I'm taking my measurement from the very top of my folding. Then I'm going to be marking this out. Then from my waistline, that mark I made is going to be my waistline. From my waistline, I'm going to be marking the length of my skirt part, and I made use of 30 inches with my allowance and everything. I made use of 30 inches for my 180-degree flare. So I'm just trying to mark my 30 inches. Please note the way I placed my tape. I make sure I place my tape on the waistline, and I'm just moving it strategically to mark my 30 inches all around the fabric. I'm sorry my camera could not capture this part properly, but you get the gist. So I was just trying to mark it out properly here, then I'll go ahead and cut my skirt part with my scissors. Now moving on to our sewing table, what I did here was I interfaced our facing for the front, which is 1.5 inch. I used an interface for it, and I pressed it down to the other side, and I also make sure I overlocked the rough edge. So this is what we have for both front, and I'm going to be trimming out my excess here. So because my overlap is 2 inch and I did not mark my center front earlier, I'm going to be notching my center front right now. It's very important so you are able to place your two front bodies over each other properly. So that's me still marking my center front on the other part of my overlap bodies. So now I'm going to be placing it one over another, and this is what we have. So later on I'm going to go ahead with my hemming gum so that my facing can stay in place. So I'm placing my back bodies on my front, right sides facing each other. The very first thing I'll be doing is turning my back neckline with a bias. Then I'm going to be joining both the front and the back at the shoulder point and make sure I overlock my rough edge. Then I also made sure that I hemmed the sleeve opening that I have there. Now to business. Remember, my quarter of my waist measurement is 8.5, but here I have about 13.5 inches. So I'm just going to be pleating. I want 2 darts on both sides of it, so it just depends. At the end of the day, whatever dart you decide to pick, just make sure you have your waist measurement plus your sewing allowance after you finish pleating it, and make sure what you do to one side is what you do to the other side so that it looks uniform. So that's just what I'm trying to figure. I'm just trying to figure out the point where I want to place my pleats. Yeah, it's more like pleats, not darts, because they are not sewn in. So that's what I'm just trying to do, trying to mark the same thing on both the front and the back so it looks uniform. So I took my plate and tried to confirm if I still have my waist measurement divided by 4 plus my seam allowance, and I pinned it down. So after pinning down, I'll go ahead to my sewing machine and I'm going to stitch down the pleats that I have there in order to secure it. I'm going to be doing the same thing for the back bodies as well. So both sides of the front and both sides of the back, making sure that your pleats are uniform. And here I have stitched it down, and I also made sure that I overlocked my rough edges. So now I'm going to be taking my waist measurements. Make sure you take your waist measurements. Then you're going to be stitching down the sides. Now moving on to the skirt part, I'm going to be marking out my center front. I have my center front right there. Then if you notice in the style inspiration, there's a little bit of ruching happening at the center front of the skirt part, so I'm going to be using an elastic for that part. Then I cut out 5 inches of elastic and I'm going to be stretching it to form that ruching. You can mark about 8 or 9 inches, then stretch the 5 inches elastic over that distance. I just did a little ruching, and then I'm going to be joining my skirt part to the bodies, making sure right sides are facing each other and matching the center front. And I'm going to be joining it around like that, and this is what we have. I'm going to trim off the excess I have on the skirt part. I'm going to be fixing my zipper. I'm going to be joining the back, and I'll be hemming the down part with a bias. And at the end of it all, this is what we have. This style is so beautiful, it's so comfy. I really love it. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to drop it for me in the comment section. Until I come your way again, my name is Similolua. Please like, share and subscribe. Bye.